The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
Wrestling to the Max Smackdown Review.
Hello and welcome to Wrestling to the Max's Smackdown Live review for November 22nd, 2016. I'm your host, Sean Garmer. With me, of course, Mr. Paul Leazar.
Heyo.
Gary is not with us here for this one. He will be with me shortly for the football podcast we got to do as well, but he wasn't able to watch SmackDown on time, so this be Paul and I here. We would have had this done earlier, but I had to start watching it a bit late. So this is basically the final show with a fallout to Survivor Series and also kind of a look ahead to TLC starting to shape up with some matches, kind of making matches for that TLC show that's already happening in 2 weeks. My goodness. Already getting hot and heavy again with these pay-per-views happening quick and fast. They did not waste any time sort of, again, showing you things from Survivor Series. Of course, SmackDown is going to highlight the big match that they won, which is the main match, the 5-on-5 men's match. Shane McMahon even starts out the show okay, I guess, from his beating that he received in several moments in that match itself. He basically does this as a way to like call out Dean Ambrose, who had problems with AJ during the match, and then Ambrose brings out James Ellsworth as a way to deflect the situation because he, took out Braun Strowman by himself, and basically Shane McMahon tells Ambrose to leave the building because of all the stuff that happened the previous night. And Ellsworth is great here, though. He has like a neck brace on. He's really hurt, all this stuff. AJ comes out. AJ's kind of not happy that once again James Ellsworth seems to be the bane of his existence that doesn't go away. And Shane McMahon tells AJ that, hey, look, James Ellsworth is getting a contract, a full-time WWE contract here, and AJ's like, man, I scratched and clawed to get what I deserved, and James Ellsworth doesn't deserve anything, let alone a contract. So AJ wants a tune-up match for his TLC match, and it's going to be a singles ladder match between him and his Ellsworth with the contract on the line, but James Ellsworth also gets his own little stipulation put in there that if he wins, he gets a world title opportunity as well. He also gets to, eventually they make it to where he'll get to be on ESPN later on if he wins as well. This kind of goes on throughout the show because Dean Ambrose sort of tries to come back in several times, and every time Shane or Daniel Bryan have to kick him out. Which is, one time he comes up dressed as the Mountie, which is great. They're in Ottawa, Canada, by the way. This is the last thing that they're here in Canada. He comes back as just Dean Ambrose. At one point, tries to get Shane to like, hey, I'm gonna go buy you something, and he's like, no, I don't want anything. Dean gets involved even in the match itself, which doesn't go very long. It goes about 5 or 6 minutes. Ellsworth eventually wins getting the contract. What did you think of this whole main storyline throughout the show? I thought James Ellsworth was really good here, and so was AJ.
The reason why this works all so well is I think everybody plays up to their role very well, and AJ probably being the star of it all really helps. I thought he was dynamite doing the opening promo. Really, really comes across as you get his point, but at the same time, you love James Ellsworth so much because the guy he's got the sweetest gig in the world where he gets to show up and work 6 minutes, and suddenly he's hanging out with all these big dudes. And Dean, of course, gets to be Wacky Dean here, which at times is hit or miss, and this was definitely a hit for me tonight, mostly because of the Mountie thing, especially when he tells Daniel Bryan that the Mountie always gets his man. I both laughed out loud and popped all at the same time, John. It was wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong with quoting the Mountie, especially if you're going to be dressed like him. And then like Shane's reaction to the fact that he's coming back again is great stuff. I loved it. I mean, just look, the match wasn't anything, like I said. Anything you really need to like go crazy. Make sure you watch, but it was still a fun little bout, and we already kind of knew going in Ellsworth had his contract if you pay attention to anything dirt sheet wise, but this was still kind of cool for the fans and the audience to see that this was really happening for him. Mm-hmm. So, there's been a lot of talk about, and we've talked about it too, of James Ellsworth, and he doesn't deserve this from certain wrestlers, and certain wrestlers are happy for him, and whatever. Like, obviously, James Ellsworth fits a certain kind of role, and he will probably never get out of that role. He's a Eugene, he's a Santino, that kind of character. Do you think that it's okay to make this big deal about a guy like James Ellsworth when you've got other guys that obviously you can go much further with?
I think it's fair for these guys to bring it up, especially because they're in there working their butts off, week in and week out to try to get something going. But at that same time, James Ellsworth just sort of came in and swept them all away and seemingly got the crowd behind him in no time flat. And you could say it's because of the booking, or you could say because the guy looks like a goof, or whatever reason you want to give in favor of him. But they're all valid. The guy... They made a T-shirt for him that's the lamest shirt ever, and it's outsold Roman Reigns. I mean, there's not really a lot you can do but sign the guy and try to use him for all he's worth before his 15, 20, 30 minutes of fame are up, and you move on to the next thing. But he's definitely a short-term deal, and if he manages to last longer, then good on him. But I really don't see this going longer than maybe 6 months to a year, unless the guy just keeps finding a way to evolve.
Yeah, Hornswoggle was able to last for like 7-8 years. Santino, on and off, lasted for a while too. R-Truth is still around. Goldust, has made a ton of his comeback. I think, we don't have a zillion kinds of these characters that we had at one point. And I think, Vince kind of saw that. He fits a niche that they don't have, and good on him and whoever else was instrumental in getting him signed and running with something, and not just saying, oh, he's a one-trick pony, we're just going to do it one time and whatever. They saw the buzz, they went with it, they kept doing it, and it kept escalating, and, we've lambast WWE sometimes for not going with something, and this is one of those times where they went with it and it worked out for them.
Right. Yeah, and I think the best thing about Ellsworth here is that it's all been very organic. It's all been very natural as far as what they've done with him, where they sort of stuck him, and he's fit in really well to this Dean AJ storyline, which probably wouldn't have as much steam as it does right now if it weren't for him. So good on him.
Agreed, yeah, because it's really made you want to hate AJ. Mm-hmm. Really made him a heel in this, and Ambrose has gotten to be funny. He's gotten to be different kind of guys and in this feud, and sort of, we've seen him kind of play devil's advocate different times with James Ellsworth himself, because oh, well, you're going to cost me the title here, I don't want you at ringside, or oh no man, you're my buddy right now, or or whatever. Just that I think it's a very minor part of it, but I think it matters and has helped make that storyline important in the end.
Right.
So moving on from this, the big thing that they were promoting before that they decided to make that match was the tag team turmoil to determine who was the new number one contender for the tag team titles to face Rhino and Heath Slater. You had, I think it was the Hype Bros and the Ascension start out. I mean, that was fine for what it was. Breeze and Fandango came and eliminated them, and then American Alpha came and cleaned house with them and the Vaudevillains. The big move into the drop kick into the German suplex was fantastic. And then you get the actual match with the Usos and Jordan Gable. I enjoyed the Jordan Gable and Usos part of it. I mean, they've been really good together. You get American Alpha winning, but I was surprised too that they would do the face versus face match, and then we find out that Bray Wyatt had this planned all along, that he and Randy Orton are going to be the ones that you're going to have to go through to actually get the tag title shot.
Mm-hmm.
So, interesting. Did you like that? I mean, obviously American Alpha kind of got upset about it and made their point that, hey, we should be the number one contenders because we won this thing. But did you like that Bray and Orton are kind of inserting themselves into this and saying, okay, well, we want to be tag champions too?
I think it plays very well into the two stories they have going on right now across both these things, and the fact that the American Alpha are continuing to chase the tag team championships, and if things are going to go the way that everybody thinks they're going to go, or at least that I think they're going to go, they're going to come up short because of whatever reason against Randy and Bray, and they're going to have to start all the way back at the bottom again and keep on chasing, and then when they finally get the big payoff, hopefully it comes at the right time and everybody falls in love with it, and you keep on rolling from there. And at that same time, you have a whole bunch of problems going on in the family. Of course, you have Bray's new favorite in Randy, and Luke Harper sort of just off to the side, who is, at least at Survivor Series, seemed okay with it, and this time was just sort of staring at him in the background. So it'd be interesting to see if there's some play there, and if they do win that tag team match, is that the part where Randy turns? I mean, we're all waiting for it, but when is it actually going to happen, if it ever happens?
You know, I think honestly, you know, you do have to wonder. I mean, in Canada, it is a weird bag because, like, I don't think the 10 thing is going to carry on past that to, you know, when you get to North Carolina for Raw and wherever they're going to be at for SmackDown, probably like South Carolina or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I think another thing is the Heath Slater Rhino thing really a big deal anymore, where I think you have a sort of a perfect opportunity to kind of continue storylines and have Bray and Randy Orton win the titles. Mm-hmm. And this can be your way of getting them off Rhino and Slater. I'm guessing they would at least go to a short feud on SmackDown while they wait for the Rumble to get closer. And then perhaps this is where American Alpha kind of gets involved, and you do have American Alpha against Bray and Orton, and then that you kind of create that dissension there, and that allows American Alpha to eventually win. I mean, they could possibly have just American Alpha win outright, but I don't know, you have a good opportunity here to move the belts if they want to.
They certainly could go that route, and I don't think anybody would discount that. Plus, if they are going to keep Randy and Bray together, American Alpha is certainly, that's a great way to highlight them, because obviously they're both, Bray and Randy are both sort of the higher up on the ladder over there on SmackDown. So you have that sort of rub going on there. But at the same way, if they keep them on Heath and Rhino, which I think they will in that case, because I don't know how much steam you're going to get. If you are going to turn Randy, I think they're going to do it sooner rather than later. And whether this leads up to WrestleMania for them or not, ultimately might be secondary currently as to how this is going to play out. But when you have I think American Alpha chasing and chasing and chasing. I think they want to save that for WrestleMania. Maybe you have the belts on the Usos at some point, just because those matches have been so great. Or maybe they do bring the revival to SmackDown, and they're the ones who take it off, or however they want to do it. But I think they want to save that big moment of American Alpha winning for WrestleMania. I really do, just because I think they have them pegged as sort of the next big tag team, at least for that side of the coin in WWE.
I mean, your point makes a lot of sense as far as American Alpha kind of doing their thing until you get to the big title match of WrestleMania and they win there. I don't have a problem with that at all. I do think that in order to make this interesting for WrestleMania, you kind of got to keep them around, and especially with the Royal Rumble coming, where Royal Rumble is usually a match where you see this kind of thing sometimes. You see tag teams have issues because one guy eliminates the other, or whatever. You know, Roman eliminating both guys from the Shield for whatever. You know, it's that match has a long history of those kind of things, and I think you do sort of have to keep that going if you do want to do a Randy Orton Bray at WrestleMania. I mean, yeah, they could put Randy in some other match, whatever, but what do you really have for him to do at this point? You want to go with this? You've been going with the storyline. I think why not make it a longer one for him?
Mm-hmm.
We do get some more stuff with the women here, where Shane is sort of bringing up. He's there with Alexa Bliss and Becky and Natty, and Natty gives her opinion that it's Becky's fault that they lost the Survivor Series match. So, you know, they kind of bicker back and forth. Natty does another pop culture reference, which makes Alexa Bliss's kryptonite is making pop culture references because she goes crazy. So Shane makes Becky versus Natty for later in the night with Alexa Bliss on commentary. Loved the way Alexa Bliss was just totally making David Otunga look like an idiot here. That was tremendous stuff, but I do think that like the crowd didn't give Becky and Natty any kind of credit because this match was actually good. I enjoyed it, and they were just kind of dead for it.
Which I think is kind of surprising with seeing as Natty's involved in this. But then again, maybe not. I mean, it's not like Natty's been doing much of the big stuff as far as the women's division go. But I think you're absolutely right. I really enjoyed this. I think this was probably the best match on TV we've seen from the two as far as their one-on-one occasions go out. Certainly felt like everything was clicking. Everything ran smoothly. And, I mean, they treated Natty very fair in this, too. She had a couple chances to win and just came up a little bit short against Becky, who finally got in the disarmer. But I completely agree with you. I enjoyed this match greatly. And, I mean, you get the attack from Alexa at the end to sort of keep on rolling towards their now scheduled women's title rematch at TLC, which I'm kind of bummed didn't get one of the stips so far. But I think they still have the tables match left to announce, so maybe so.
You are right about that. They do have that one stip left. We did get more stuff with Carmella and Nikki in a backstage segment where they kind of bicker at each other. Nikki accuses Carmella of taking her out. Carmella brings up a good point that, hey, you know, every time I've taken you out, I've owned it. Why wouldn't I have said something here? And then Nikki says, well, look, I talked to my brother-in-law, and it is now going to be a no DQ match, something that we've kind of known for a while, that this seems like it's really building up to this no DQ match. And, yeah, I mean, I hope it's good between the two.
Yeah, I hope it's good, too. I mean, the long stuff we've seen with Carmella hasn't exactly been great. So hopefully they can at least bring out enough smoke and mirrors to distract you from her obvious deficiency still in the ring. But I got faith that they can at least do something here worth your time. And obviously, I would assume Nikki goes over here to sort of set up what they're going to do in the future with the women's division. But you never know. They could give the nod to Carmella.
They could. Depends on what they want to do there, like you said, as far as the future of the women's division. But you know, I think what matters here is that finally you get something good with Carmella in an ODQ match in a situation where they can kind of go all out. Hopefully they give them the time to do that on that kind of show. Speaking of stipulations, we do have another kind of show-long thing here. Well, it's not a show-long, but it goes into about 2 or 3 different segments with Miz, taunting Bryan about, hey, where's my celebration for the fact that I kept the IC title on SmackDown? And Bryan was like, look, I didn't like how you won. I'm humiliated by it, in fact. And Miz was like, well, I'm a fighting champion. And so Bryan's like, well, you're a fighting champion. Well, how about you face Kalisto tonight? Miz objects at first, and he says, well, your match is next. This match barely goes about close to 8 minutes. It actually was starting to get good towards the end, and then here comes Baron Corbin to cause a distraction, and Miz winds up winning to keep the IC title here. Corbin screwing Kalisto is no surprise. They're having a feud, obviously. This makes sense. And we go on to later where, due to him getting involved and due to Bryan constantly saying, and he says quite a lot about it on Talking Smack, things that we have talked about on various shows about why the Cruiserweights would have been great for SmackDown and what the Cruiserweights need to succeed and that, all that kind of stuff. Well, because Baron Corbin costs SmackDown all that, he puts Corbin in a match against his own personal friend there, Kane. And him and Kane don't have a match that lasts very long at all because Kalisto basically runs down, causes the DQ, and then Kalisto grabs a chair and then kicks the chair into Baron Corbin's face, which leads to Corbin getting chokeslammed. And yeah, Baron Corbin did win by DQ there, but looks like it's already been set up that there's a chairs match between Kalisto and Baron Corbin. At least it's turning into something, I guess.
They are turning into something, and I'm not overly enthused about Baron Corbin and all this, but I think Kalisto's at least getting some time to shine and show off what he can sort of do as far as the character goes. He's got the fiery babyface thing down, and if they want to pursue that going into the future, I'd be all for that. But I don't like his chances going up against Baron Corbin in that chairs match.
I don't, and Baron Corbin was also on Talking Smack there, I think, at the end. And Corbin was like, look, man, people don't care to watch the Cruiserweights. Why did you need those? They want to watch guys like Goldberg and Brock and like me that are big. And Bryan sort of agreed with him, saying that the Cruiserweights need things to make them stand out. They need characters. And then, Corbin once again just keeps making fun of them. And I think that's where he makes the matches on Talking Smack, actually. But, they have a nice interaction, and the way Bryan talks about the Cruiserweights and everything is interesting. It's almost as if he hopes that they show up there down the line or something, that he also feels the boat has been missed on them and that SmackDown could have done a better job.
He's not wrong. Something we talk about very often over on the Raw review, or just anytime we really get a chance to talk about Cruiserweights. They don't really get a fair shake over there on Raw. They're sort of treated. They just feel like guys. They don't feel different. They don't feel like they have that special aura that they had on CWC, and maybe having their own show on the network, and where you get more of maybe a hands-off approach from the bigwigs is the way to go with this. And maybe it is only something that appeals to hardcore guys like maybe me and Sean or other people listening to the show or the bigger IWC audience out there. But I don't see why you couldn't get guys who are flashy and who like to do the big moves and who are very good at doing the big moves into something that matters and building a solid division around that. But Raw can't seem to do that.
No, they can't, sadly. And interesting take on Brian's by Brian saying that Goldberg proved that he deserves that Mania main event because he is a true star, something that he hasn't been able to do with any of his guys. And he takes that personally. He hopes that AJ and Dean can get to that level at some point. Interesting to hear him just kind of just say, like, he hates the fact that Raw brings back Attitude Era guys, but he thought that this was well done.
I mean, I would hate the fact that they keep having to rely on these guys too, but you look around the internet, you look around people who you talk about wrestling with who still watch, and they're all about the Goldberg thing. So as much as I freaking hate it and made my piece very well known on the Raw Review, and I don't care to get all riled up again, I'll leave it at Daniel Bryan makes the point that Goldberg does put butts in seats, but WWE has no reason why they can't have somebody else like that at this current moment other than to blame themselves.
Yeah, I find it like just genuine how it seems like Bryan just kind of takes that on himself that, hey, we have guys that aren't at that level, but I want to make sure I want them to get to that level. And I mean, obviously he has to say that in kayfabe form as well, because at the end of the day, he isn't the one that makes those decisions, but still interesting that, it's something that he really wants to see, and hopefully one day down the line we can get that for these guys or just anyone, so that WWE has characters that have made it to that level for this generation, which they just don't have yet.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't really had that big superstar come along really since Cena and Randy sort of took over the center stage. And as bum as that sort of is, I can't really say that. I mean, CM Punk and Daniel Bryan got there, but we've seen where that's sort of gotten them in as far as WWE's treated them. Or, basic whatever else happening. Whatever. There are reasons. There are some bigger than others, but most of them point back to WWE. And certainly, I mean, they're capable of it. They have a lot of stars around right now. They just can't seem to ever get enough hype machine behind them to get other people to care, or failures on their own part.
Interesting they didn't do anything more with Miz and Bryan on this, though, since that was kind of the only thing missing from the show. You didn't get that, but you can, or well, I guess you can watch James Ellsworth with Dean Ambrose there on the ESPN at 9 p.m. Eastern. Little interview thing that Coach does on there. Will you be watching for the big Ellsworth moment?
I haven't really watched anything that they've done on ESPN yet, so probably not.
I won't either. I just thought I'd ask, if he's going to be drawing people's attention to watch that segment or not. Just interesting thing for him. And that's pretty much all with SmackDown. It was really one of these like short and sweet shows, just kind of, okay, here's what's coming out of Survivor Series, and here's what's continuing on to TLC. Nothing just, oh yeah, we're going to remember this for a while thing, wrestling-wise. There's good storytelling stuff here, which is, I think, what you want in the show as well. And just being 2 hours, it feels like it just flows by. For me, I go in that 7 territory. Just, it's so much easier to watch this show than Raw.
I completely agree with you both in what you just said, and in the rating, I'm giving it a 7.2. It flows. Everything as far as segments go has a point. They're building. They're giving you some fallout. They're giving you some build up, and we got some more carryover to the next show as far as the tag team situation goes. And obviously, I mean, you got to keep watching to see what's going to happen between AJ and James and Dean there at the top of the card. And I'm kind of bummed I won't be. I mean, I'll be on a plane going towards Disney World on the 4th. So I mean, and the show's taking place here in Dallas, and I'd love to go, but I got there's a Magic Kingdom waiting for me, Sean.
You do have to relish in that Magic Kingdom when you have the opportunity. Gary is going to be there at TLC representing, though. So it's okay. At least one of us is going.
Somebody's going. That's what
Yeah.
counts.
So, and we'll have some representatives over there at Royal Rumble, too, from the WTMNet staff. So that's going to be fun on that end. But that's for much later. Of course, everybody enjoy your Thanksgiving. If you're like Paul and I, and we work in retail capacity, it's going to be crazy, but after Friday, it'll slow down until, when it gets closer to Christmas, thankfully. Sucks for me because they basically kill our hours till then, but it is what it is. Like I said, enjoy your Thanksgiving. We will be back on Friday night, Saturday morning with our part 2 episode. I know we'll have more nights of the New Japan Tag League to talk about. Also, we'll have to see what they do with NXT, because I think that's usually like the whole what they tape on the pre-show and stuff like that. Usually it's not like a full episode a lot of times. And then, of course, we'll have Lucha Underground and TNA to talk about as well. Hopefully there is some news, but you never know with the holiday. Everything might just kind of shut down. But all right. Yeah. We'll see you again on Friday night, everybody.
Absolutely. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Later.
The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.